Today we're getting into the latest Tesla news, including Tesla making the Model 3 worse, Tesla dominating in fast charging, Robotaxi updates, and more. So let's get into it, and a special thanks to Recurrent for sponsoring this video. First up today, one of Tesla's biggest historical advantages over its competitors is their robust and expanding supercharger network. While other providers have struggled for years, Tesla has been thriving and rapidly growing their network as a way to ensure that no matter where you drive, you'll always have access to fast and reliable charging solutions. As such, it turned a lot of heads earlier this year when Tesla fired their entire supercharging team, which was near unanimously heralded by outsiders as Tesla's biggest success. Since then, the company has hired back some of the former staff, but outside companies saw this as an opportunity to close what had previously been an incontestable lead. While many feared that Tesla might have been shifting their focus away from supercharging, a new study has just shown how big their lead still is. J.D. Power has just done a new study on the levels of satisfaction reported by customers of all the major charging brands. Tesla offers two public charging products, their Level 2 destination chargers and their DC fast charging superchargers. While scores for both of these networks are down ever so slightly, both systems are consistently ranked high above their competitors. While other charging networks have been growing and improving, these graphs show that Tesla still reigns supreme. In the DC fast charging segment, Tesla single-handedly raises the average, coming in over 100 points above the second best competitor, ChargePoint. The lead is a little closer in the Level 2 charging segment, but Tesla still maintains the lead that they've had for years. In their analysis, J.D. Power shares a bit more information that gives us some insight into why the satisfaction scores may have dropped. Tesla owners in particular rated their charging experience at an average of 743, which is only 2 points below last year's score. Ultimately, that is really a small and inconsequential drop. What is new, however, is the inclusion of non-Tesla owners charging at Tesla superchargers. Other EV brands only started becoming eligible to charge at these stations just this year, and while a lot of work has been done to make that charging experience as smooth as possible, it's not quite the same as just plugging in with your Tesla. Owners who drove another EV brand reported their supercharger experience to be a bit lower at 706 points, which is still almost 80 points ahead of the competition. So while charging at a supercharger may not be quite as seamless when you own another brand's vehicle, it still seems to be leagues ahead of the competition. That gap will surely diminish as other automakers start to improve their software integration and include NACS ports into their vehicles by default. While Tesla is internally going through a transitionary period right now, it's great to see that their groundbreaking supercharger network has not suffered too much. The company has affirmed their commitment to growing this network, but only time will tell if they can continue at their previous pace. Fast charging has come a long way in the last few years, but it will still be a while before they are as ubiquitous as gas stations are now. Other charging companies are working overtime to minimize this lead, but for now, Tesla is still the undisputed king of charging. Next up today, Tesla has made a brand new Model 3 that includes a number of downgrades for the first time since this car has launched. The way that most automakers bring down the price of their vehicles is by taking things away, making the seats cheaper, using cheaper materials, getting rid of powered seats, and things like that. However, Tesla has never really done this. In large part, that is due to parts simplification and Tesla simply not wanting to complicate the assembly line. Less options means less interruptions at the factory. However, Tesla is starting to see the effects of demand slowing on their vehicles as they keep production rolling. Many customers already have their vehicles, interest rates are high, and Tesla's cheapest car still starts above $35,000. The current plan from Tesla is that they will be releasing new vehicles in 2025. They say that these will be built in part on their next generation platform and in part on their current platform so that these cars can be built on current assembly lines. We expect something along the lines of a Model 3 hatchback could come in 2025. Long-term, Tesla may introduce a completely new, cheaper vehicle that comes in around $25,000 or less, but for the meantime, we could see something very similar to what we have today, just with some downgrades to make it cheaper. In comes the new Model 3 that Tesla is now selling in Mexico. Specifically for the rear-wheel drive Model 3 in Mexico, Tesla has introduced a new textile interior option. If you purchase a Model 3 rear-wheel drive in Mexico, this is the interior that it comes with. This is the first time we've seen seats like this on the Model 3. Since its launch, Tesla has only shipped that car with their vegan leather seats. Based on the photos, it's quite clear that these seats aren't as high quality as Tesla's other seats. At the same time, Tesla made a number of different changes. These seats do not have any heating or ventilation. The rear screen on the new refreshed Model 3 has been removed to just include standard vents and USB-C ports. The ambient lighting in the interior is no longer RGB and is only white on this trim. There is no heated steering wheel, and acoustic glass is only included on the front windows instead of all of the windows in the car. The other downgrade to note is the reduced quality on the sound system, but that has been the case on the rear-wheel drive Model 3 for some time. Some of those will be interesting to see if Tesla releases a software unlock for. Is the ambient lighting actually a different part? Is the steering wheel actually a different part as well? Based on Tesla's past habits, it would seem that they'd offer a paid software unlock for these features, but if they're truly trying to save money in production, these would need to be different parts. Alongside these changes came a price drop equivalent to about $2,680. That brings this car down to the equivalent of about $35,000. That's the originally promised starting price of the Model 3. That's not a massive drop, but it's definitely our first sign of what we could see from Tesla in the near future, and it does open this car up to more customers. Come 2025, we're going to see some cheaper cars coming from them, and these types of downgrades are exactly what we are expecting to see. On top of that, they could introduce this option in the United States and other markets to help bring down the price of the Model 3 as it ships today. This is definitely interesting to see because many of the downgrades are things that Tesla just added to the Model 3 with the refresh earlier this year. Ventilated seats, a rear screen, RGB ambient lighting, acoustic glass. These are all upgrades that this car did not have before this year. So yes, this Tesla Model 3 is worse, but it's more so putting it in line with previous year's models. In turn, it should save quite a bit on Tesla's end, which should hopefully be passed on to the consumer in time. At first glance, this could definitely seem like quite a disappointment. Tesla is cheapening up the interior of the Model 3. They're making it even cheaper than it feels to some people today. However, I think this will soon prove to be a very good thing. We are seeing Tesla experimenting with different options and finally introducing things that bring costs down, but keep the functionality the same. That is, the batteries and motors, the most important parts of these cars. Next up, let's talk about today's sponsor, Recurrent. Recurrent is a free platform designed by battery scientists to analyze your EV's range and battery. EV drivers can connect their car for daily owner insights, and they currently have around 20,000 active vehicles for 50 plus makes and models in all 50 states. Here's a sample report for a 2023 Tesla Model Y, which details this car's expected range, real-world range, range in 3 years, how much time is left on the warranty, and more. When it's time to sell or trade in, EV sellers can now use their Recurrent info to sell their car for more by showing their range and battery are strong. Recurrent's network of dealerships pays a premium for these cars, and I had success using this early on when selling my 2018 Model 3. The buyer beat all online offers and came to my house to pick up the Model 3. With their service, the EV owner makes more money, and for large auto auctions, they've found that including Recurrent battery insights increased the average sale price by $1,400 and helped cars sell faster. If you're looking to buy your first EV, shoppers can check the range, battery, and tax credit eligibility on tens of thousands of used EVs for free with Recurrent reports. It's free for consumers, no data is ever shared without consent, and battery data is handled securely with end-to-end encryption. With Recurrent, we can buy, drive, and sell electric cars positively. So check them out by clicking the link in the description below. Next up today, while many may not realize it, we are getting extremely close to what may be a make or break moment for Tesla. While the unveil event for their upcoming fully autonomous Robotaxi was delayed until later this year, Tesla still has a lot riding on the success of this vehicle. They are really betting big on self-driving here, and if it succeeds, it could revolutionize the entire personal transportation industry. Although we will now have to wait until October for our first official look at this vehicle, some keen-eyed Tesla fans have spotted a unique Model 3 out on the road, which could give us some insight into the upcoming Robotaxi. Before we jump into that, here's what we know so far about the Robotaxi. This is going to be Tesla's fully autonomous, AI-powered rideshare vehicle that will have no options for customer input. If they stick to what they've told us, this car will have no steering wheel, pedals, or mirrors, meaning that there will be no way for a human to control the car from inside. They plan to use their advanced full self-driving software to power this vehicle, which will enable them to deliver passengers at all hours and without the overhead cost of paying drivers. Eventually, they even plan to allow current FSD customers to send out their vehicles as part of their rideshare service when they are not otherwise in use. Just recently, someone spotted a very unique Model 3 out on the road near Tesla's engineering HQ in Palo Alto, California, that has had some big changes made to it. We can see the side mirrors and B-pillar have been removed from the exterior, and the side cameras have been replaced by ones positioned at different angles. Additionally, the rear camera has been repositioned to be higher up on the trunk, and a brand new camera has been added to the rear windows. All of these factors combined have led many to believe that this is a testing prototype for the upcoming Robotaxi. We can see in these pictures that the new camera installations on this vehicle are pretty rough around the edges, and are likely just placeholders until a more permanent design is ready. It is very intriguing to see, however, and it does raise questions regarding just what the final vehicle will look like. We have seen concept sketches and a rudimentary wood mock-up, but for now we can't know for certain if the final vehicle will look even close to these designs. With that said, we do see Tesla testing this with multiple different Model 3s out in the wild. It seems almost guaranteed that they are doing validation testing for the Robotaxi camera positions. Beyond just the hardware of building a Robotaxi fleet, there's also the difficulty of making the software service that customers will use to access it. In an interview, the CEO of Uber expressed some concerns regarding Tesla's ability to effectively enter the rideshare market and the viability of their future plans. For one, he points out a potential flaw with Tesla's proposed system of allowing drivers to send their own FSD-equipped vehicles to act as robotaxis when the owner doesn't need their car. He said, quote, "Probably the times at which you're going to want your Tesla are probably going to be the same times that rideshare is going to be at a peak. There are these peaks and valleys in terms of supply and demand. It's also not clear to me that the average Tesla owner or owner of any other car is going to want to have that car be ridden in by a complete stranger." Those are some very good points for some, but that is where Tesla's dedicated Robotaxi fleet comes in. Those vehicles will theoretically be operating all the time in major markets, which will enable them to pick up the slack during peak times. Uber's CEO also points out how difficult it is to build out a dedicated rideshare software infrastructure. He says, quote, "We've had to learn to build out a system that's able to make everything work for both the rider and the driver. It's taken us 15 years. It's taken us tens of billions of dollars of capital." While Tesla has a lot of great experience making high-quality software, it's true that they haven't had to deploy anything quite like this. Uber's CEO does go on to say that autonomous vehicles are likely the future of transportation, and that he would be open to partnering with Tesla someday. Clearly, Tesla and the world at large are taking the idea of autonomous driving very seriously. The automaker's fate is closely tied with the success of this software and the Robotaxi at this point. We'll have to wait until October for our first look at this official vehicle, but for now, these Model 3s give us a sneak peek of what is coming next. Next up today, Tesla is known for constantly adjusting their vehicle prices to account for changes in the market and to drive demand. That has a huge effect on their sold vehicles' resale value and the used EV market as a whole. It can be pretty frustrating for a recent Tesla owner to purchase a brand new vehicle and then watch that price immediately fall a considerable amount. Of course, that happens with all new cars, but Tesla's pricing strategy can really exacerbate it. Now we have some new insight into how exactly those resale values have been affected and what Tesla's process is for selling used cars. One user on Reddit has been tracking the prices of used cars listed on Tesla's website over the last 4 months. That data includes about 3,000 cars listed in the San Francisco Bay Area. Using a linear regression model, they were able to determine what factors they think most influence the price. Like with all cars, the biggest factors that impact price are the mileage, age, and repair history. But certain other factors can actually increase the price in a positive way. For the Model 3, the cost is reduced by $97 for every 1,000 miles driven, by $127 for every month in age, and by $860 for having been previously repaired. In the positive direction, the price increases by $3,500 for being a long-range trim, and an additional $2,300 on top of that for being the performance trim. As for premium options, those too increase the price from Tesla. Enhanced Autopilot raises the price by $1,400, FSD by $2,600, even though that option new costs $8,000, and the white interior raises it by $90, compared to $1,000 new. Black and gray are actually the priciest exterior colors at $221 and $150 more than the average, respectively. The other color options actually bring the price a little lower, with red at $142, white by $93, and blue by $56 under the average. Interestingly, the author found no difference in price between any of the different wheel sizes. The story for the Model Y is very similar. The average price dropped by $133 for every 1,000 miles, by $239 for every month of age, and by $1,600 for a history of repairs. The all-wheel drive variant usually raises the price by $5,500, and for the performance model, another $3,100 on top of that. Enhanced Autopilot adds another $1,900, FSD adds $2,800, and the white interior adds just $120. I find it particularly interesting to see how much Tesla values FSD here. They talk about the fact that FSD will only grow in value, and how some people do value its cost when you resell your car. However, Tesla themselves values it about $5,200 less than getting it new, even though the software is unchanged. For the Model Y, black and red are the most sought-after colors, coming in at $199 and $341 respectively. Gray, white, and blue are less in demand, dropping the price by $121, $113, and $306 respectively. Here there is a difference in wheel prices, with the 20-inch premium wheels costing an extra $350, again compared to $2,000 new. You can check out their full report to see the same information for the Model S and X, but it follows a fairly similar pattern. If you're interested in buying a Tesla, then choosing to shop used can score you some pretty great deals, as we can see here. Particularly if you're thinking you want a Tesla with that FSD package, it's much cheaper to get it on a used Tesla. When you get down to it, buying a used Tesla can honestly be much less of a gamble than buying a used ICE vehicle. Teslas can be extremely long-lasting when taken care of properly, and the minimal maintenance means that you could probably drive it longer than you would a gas-powered car. Buying used will always require a bit of added diligence to ensure that everything is as you want it, but if you can find a car that suits your needs, you can probably get it for a really great deal. Next up today, most viewers will be aware that Tesla is known for being at the cutting edge of vehicle hardware and software design. Over the years, they have rolled out tons of software updates that increase the functionality of their cars and help to keep their oldest cars feeling new. Tesla has been around for a while now, and that also means that they have produced a number of different vehicles and revised them many times over the years. While some of their older cars don't have the same functionality as their newer counterparts, Tesla does still release updates for these vehicles now and again. The oldest generation of Tesla vehicles will immediately stand out for their Media Control Unit 1 or MCU-1 design. While all current MCU-2 Tesla vehicles have a horizontal center screen, the oldest models have their screen in a portrait orientation. There's a lot of different computer hardware under the hood as well, but that is the most immediately noticeable change to the average person. Later hardware revisions offer a lot more computing power than the older versions, so sometimes the latest updates don't always get to these older vehicles. As of late, Tesla has been on a bit of a spree of updating these MCU-1 vehicles with some really nice features though. The biggest one of late was the arrival of FSD version 12 onto these older vehicles, many of whom were some of the earliest adopters of this software. Another recent one was an improvement to the car's automatic emergency braking system. According to the version 2023.12 owner's manual, quote, automatic emergency braking now also works when your vehicle is in reverse, not only in drive. It applies the brakes if the vehicle detects an object in its path and a collision appears imminent. This is a really nice safety feature to have, and it's great to see older vehicles get that fully featured version. The automatic emergency braking is now also responsive to obstacles entering the vehicle's line of sight perpendicularly. That includes dangers like someone running a red light or you being cut off. These are some safety features that it's great to see arrive on these older generations of vehicles. It shows a certain commitment on Tesla's part that they are willing to provide updates and improve features to vehicles that in some cases are nearly a decade old and running on vastly inferior hardware. Many owners have reasonably been worried that they would be left behind in light of newer generation vehicles. Of course, at a certain point, they're going to be left behind just by the hardware limitation, but it's promising to see Tesla still bringing lots of features to their older vehicles. Last up today, an update from Lucid. The name of the game for any new EV maker is not only to scale effectively, but to promote further sales by driving down prices for consumers. Lucid is a luxury automaker that rose to prominence with their niche and expensive lineup of sedans. Since the earliest days, the company has introduced relatively cheaper models and lowered the price of some of their existing ones. Now Lucid has just started selling some of their Air demo vehicles for as low as $57,000. That's still very expensive compared to many EVs, but it's a pretty significant discount for the MSRP of $69,900, and when compared to the earlier Dream Edition model, which started at $169,000. By shopping on their website, you can see that there are different configurations available under 1,000 miles, including the 2023 model, which gets up to 410 miles of EPA range. The demo units are available within 2 weeks of ordering, and transport fees range from free up to $2,000 depending on your location. If you are someone shopping for a vehicle in this luxury category, then this may be a great opportunity to get a Lucid for a really great price. Few other cars can match that range, and with this discount it comes in well below a Model S. While these cars are not completely brand new, they are all very lightly driven and should be in nearly new condition. With the upcoming release of their $80,000 Gravity SUV, Lucid is seemingly hoping to follow a similar trajectory to Tesla, starting by only offering extremely luxury vehicles and slowly lowering the price and introducing more affordable models. Lucid is still a niche automaker for now, but they make great vehicles, and I'm very excited to see what comes next from them. With that said, this car is likely losing them even more money, so I hope that they can figure profitability out in the near future. That's all the latest Tesla news for today, so in the meantime, if you want to see details about the 200,000 mile Model 3 on its original battery, you can check out that video linked up here or in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.